Hey, folks, welcome to the Beans and Dice podcast. I'm Carlos.
I'm Rob.
Michael.
And I'm Patrick.
And we're going to give you today our thoughts on our analysis of, our post-game analysis of our play of Brass Birmingham. We're also going to talk a little bit about what we've been up to gaming-wise. Stick around for more Beans and Dice podcast.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Thanks for sticking around, folks. Let's talk Brass Birmingham. So we just finished playing Brass Birmingham. It's multiple plays for Rob, second play for me, and we've introduced Patrick and Michael to the game. So we're going to kind of give you our post-game analysis. We're going to keep it sweet, simple, and to the short so that we can just talk about how we felt and what we liked about it. Quick rundown on the details of Brass Birmingham. It is a 2018 game reprinted by Roxley Games. So it was a recent reprint by Roxley Games. And it's an updated version of Brass, original Brass. So there's new rules in there. If you want the original version of Brass, they also did Brass Lancashire.
Lancashire. Yep.
Lancashire. English is not my first language.
Yeah.
But this version adds new rules, new mechanics, but it supposedly stays true to the original game. I picked it up from Armada Games, from Michael here. He's the purveyor of board games at Armada Games in Temple Terrace, Florida. And it was a quite inexpensive game.
Yeah, not bad.
So it was an easy find, a quick buy
For the non-deluxe version, yeah.
Right. I already had the Roxley chips from a different order, so I already had the upgraded deluxe version.
Yeah.
But I like the retail version because it's such a small box. It's not a big box game. It's not even near the size of like a Ticket to Ride game. It's like half the size.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when I saw the components laid out. The box is very narrow. Like, I think it's even more narrow than like Splendor is.
Yeah.
It is. It's not as thick as Splendor's box. This one's something you could throw in your backpack.
Yep, and we all know how efficient Splendor's insert is. This one's so much better.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't disagree with that. It's a solid production for the game itself. In Brass Birmingham, you're playing the role of these business tycoons in the late 1700s, early 1800s, which explains why I'm dressed in 1700 garb here. So you can see I'm all...
Yes, because hoodies were so big back then.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hoodies were a thing, I'm sure.
Drawstrings.
Yeah, the monks.
For rogues.
For rogues.
Assassins.
That's a thing.
I dressed up for the game, and in this game, you're playing the role of a tycoon. Your goal is to buy industries in different cities of this part of the United Kingdom, England area. Geography on with Carlos, and I'm going to get it wrong.
Sure.
And then you're using those industries to sell things and resources to get points. So it's not just about what you actively do, it's about getting the other players to use what you've built to help you get points.
Yeah, you're building networks that each other can build off of. So you're doing a lot in this game that either intentionally or unintentionally helps your opponents, which is a bit of a twist. That's something that's a little bit hard to get used to, is that a lot of the actions you take, you're required to use some resources that you may not own, that one of your opponents may own. And by using those resources, you're assisting them getting victory points, but you're just hoping to net more points yourself than you're giving up to your opponent. So that's a big part of where the strategic part comes in. Strategery, yeah.
There's a very much a balance of how much you want to get plus how much you're helping your opponents in this one. Having played a multitude of Martin Wallace games, this one's real good.
Yeah.
And would love to play it again. So
This was your
just
first
not
play.
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, not tonight. After a little over 3 hours, yeah.
Yeah, this was my first playthrough, and there were a couple things that I did not completely understand and misunderstood.
Yeah.
But yeah, and just like many of Martin Wallace games, like misunderstanding the rules a little bit can be very punishing.
Yeah.
But the game seems real solid to me.
Yeah.
And going back to that, just the misunderstanding the rules. Like I didn't understand that you could sell multiple items in one action.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, especially when you sold 4 things on one action.
I only got to 3.
Well, he sold 3, but he got to flip a 4th tile.
Yes,
Yeah.
that flipped. That flipped the brewery
selling
as
the
well.
3.
Yeah.
Selling
Yeah.
the 3 allowed you to flip the 4th tile for the brewery.
That was wild. I did. My head went for a flip.
It was a nice combo. Yeah.
Jumped me up. Like was it 18 spaces on the resource or
On the income track?
Yeah.
one turn before the end
Right
of the
before the
game.
end of the game,
It
which is
so choice.
That was
So
no, that
helpful.
was
the best time
Maybe
ever
2
to get
turns,
your
yeah.
resources
was it the
up.
second to last turn?
Yeah, it was something like that.
I got
yeah.
the benefit of it once. But yeah.
But how long did you spend setting that up? Like Robert and I talked about it, and we were saying, why didn't we see that coming?
Yeah.
How long did it take you to set that up?
So
That sale.
after trying to misplay, what was it, Derby? No, it wasn't Derby. It was the one above Derby. Misplaying, trying to build it into that spot twice. I figured that I would be able to sell as many of them as I could because I had them split on the board. Because I was building down at the bottom of the board at the start because I had that phase 2 plant left over. And then immediately my first action was to build something at the top end of the board. And I was just expecting you guys not to actually like put together what was going on when I linked the top and the top network and the bottom network and then immediately sold all of it.
Nice.
I didn't see that coming.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm really confused by what you just said too.
Yeah.
You don't need to go. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I think I got
My
to a
brain
place
hurts
where I
enough.
sold 2 items in one shot, and I was setting that up for the longest, and I felt like awesome. But then Michael hit that 3 spot, and it just it shows how focusing on. Although I feel like this is a very tactical game in my mind, I'm a tactical type player. Strategery is not my thing. I feel like if you look at your hand, the situation of the board, and you plan well enough ahead on how you're going to use those 8 cards, you can really win.
Yeah, you're like only needing one action to sell as many times as you want to, as long as you can have the beer out that is required to sell off anything. Like you could get up to 5 or 6, but you're still like every time you're placing one of those out, it's one of your actions.
Right.
So you have to dedicate a lot in order to actually get those out. But the problem is the money. Like if you just split it up into two actions, one like selling 2 or 3 and then selling 2 or 3 later, then you can end up benefiting more money and not have to spend like, great, you sold 6 things, but you're also down 40 money from where you should have been
Yeah.
because like you can get the income tracks higher quicker. So it's another one of the trade-offs, and Martin Wallace is fantastic for doing these games where you have to use resources in multiple ways throughout the entire game, and it is very much so a risk and resource management both at the same time, because you can also, kind of like what happened to Patrick for the last turn of the game, have everybody else suck up all the resource on the board and not be able to do anything for your last turn.
Right. And that's
I
what you
just
got to
sat
be
there just like
That's what you got to be careful with. Is that that's what Carlos and I were talking about afterwards. Is that if we would have been paying attention to what you were doing, we could have just jumped in there and used a beer somewhere and just completely ruined
Well,
that
because
combo.
I built that brewery on my first action of phase 2,
Yeah.
and it sat there with 2 beer on it until my final action of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nope, sorry, 1 turn before my final.
The
one
time
turn
that you
before.
cashed it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all felt like we could sell at any time because there was so much beer on the table. So in the game of brass, you need to have beer in order to sell the production goods.
Yep.
The manufactured goods.
And there was 2 native brass, 2 native beer, and 7 beer from our breweries on the table, and everything was connected.
But then to watch Patrick get stuck on the last turn
no
of
beer.
the last round,
Yes.
and all that beer was gone.
No money and no beer.
And
Yeah.
here's, I encouraged him to use the beer that I was going to use just to flip my thing, and then I realized that was so dumb.
I needed that beer.
That was so dumb.
But yeah,
You've played it what 4 times?
I've played it. This is my 3rd time at the full player count of 4, and I played it once with it was either 2 or 3. So yeah.
Now, have you seen anyone, like, let's say the manufactured goods track? Have you seen anyone go all the way up the track, or any of the tracks?
I don't. I in one of my games I maxed out the iron, what's it? I forget what the name of the track is, but the metal forging track.
Right.
And I maxed that out. But
Foundry.
Foundry. There you go. That's what I was thinking of. And I think there's only 4 tiles on that one. That's the only one where it's just 1, 1, 1, 1. The others have stacks as you go through that you have to work through. So I think it's probably the easiest one to do. But I did do that one game.
that box good track has so many tiles.
Oh
on
yeah,
it.
the manufactured goods. Yeah, there's a ton of them.
I don't know. For me, the cotton production track.
Yeah.
That although there weren't a lot of spaces, they were stacked.
Yeah, it's I think it was 3-3 and then 4 and 4.
Yeah, I know it's 3 the first 2. Yeah.
Just to get out of that level 1, you've got to build 3 cotton production facilities,
Right.
and then you get another 3 to get out of the 2. I felt that one's tough to get past. There's just so many trade-offs in there.
That track is also very consistent, though. If you look at it, the victory points for completing them go up, and the income track for completing them goes down all the way up. But like the other ones, they flop.
They jump back and forth.
They just keep going back and forth.
Especially like the pottery.
Yeah, that's the track that I worked on this time, and actually I did that in my last game too, and I was pretty successful. I think I got 3 of them out last time, and I only got the first 2 out this time. But yeah, that was the one I was focusing on.
Nick, the pottery track gives you, I think it was like 11 or something points, and then the next pottery building is 0.
It's
Yeah,
10,
0 or 1.
10
yeah.
0, 11 0, 12.
There you go. Yeah.
Gosh, your memory, man.
I don't know how it does
For,
it.
I know,
for the
right?
cost of 17 0, 18, no, 17 0, something 0. No, yeah.
Something.
Yeah. Every other one's 0 for the cost. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what time is it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of the game involved in the economic side, the building of buildings, the selling of goods. But I also enjoy the feeling, and I think Patrick, you said it, like a ticket to ride. Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to build these rails and these links.
With a free market system.
Right.
Pretty much, yeah.
It is like a ticket to ride board feeling, but then you add this economic layer on it where you're using those routes to do stuff with.
Yeah.
So we brought this up during the game. So it's like, yes, it has a ticket to ride style routes on it, but it also has the action efficiency requirement of Pandemic, and it has like the overall board style of Steam. Power Grid has elements to it. Like there are so many different small elements from very good games.
The
that just
Terraforming
come
Mars
together. Yeah, the Terraforming Mars
with the 2 actions per turn.
Yeah, Brass Birmingham was very well put together. It is yet another star game from Martin Wallace, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this several times, and I mentioned it tonight, is that the before I played this game, which was the first time I played it was maybe 6 months ago, so I played it maybe 4 times now in the last 6 months, but I watched the playthrough online and learned to play, and admittedly, for somebody who didn't know the game at all, watching that, I think I watched it twice, and I was still pretty clueless on how to play the game when I came to it. But when I watched it, I couldn't understand how this game was rated so high on the BGG. It's the top 10. I think it's in the top 5. But the first time I played it, I was like, whoa, okay, I understand now. That definitely deserves its place in the top 10. So, and I immediately wanted to play again. Sign of a good game. This is a game I think pretty much nobody, the first time they play it, is going to feel like they played it correctly. This is a game you've got to play 2, 3, 4 times before you even start to really catch on, I think, to the strategies and some of the ideas of how to play it efficiently. So,
And Martin Wallace name's on the box. That's
yeah, explains a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess I haven't really been a Martin Wallace fan. I guess I haven't, like Patrick, I haven't played enough of his games. I can tell you I played Lincoln.
I played a couple, but
You've got, I think it's like 1770 something.
can't remember.
The French Indian War one.
well, I have our old collection of Martin Wallace games that I would be happy to bring over
Yeah.
and sit through, just as long as we don't play Tanner's Trail. And if we're going to play Steam, it will have to be on a Sunday.
Okay, make
Starting
make
early.
a day out of it. Yeah.
It will. Your first game will run longer than Twilight Imperium.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, you guys are experts at Twilight Imperium. Your games take 3 hours. So
Yeah, sure.
I'm not
Not
talking
this
about a
group.
new player.
Yeah,
of
not
Twilight
quite,
Imperium.
but getting close. Yeah.
But this game to me just it stands out. Like the moment we played it at your turn with Dan that night, I think we left at your turn at like 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
That next morning, I am Michael. Hey, can you get me a copy of Brass? Because it was just that much fun to play. So let's give our final thoughts on Brass. Any final thoughts anybody has on Brass?
One thing I want to point out is just how quickly we felt like it played.
Yeah.
It took us 3 hours, but it didn't feel that way. There's one point where I was just staring at the board trying to think about what I was going to do, and it was still Rob's turn. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully, I was probably the biggest offender on analysis paralysis tonight. But yeah, the game does play very quick. It does step through very quick, but you do take a ton of actions. Just like in a game of Blood Bowl, it's like you're activating something so many times. It just takes a little bit of incremental time, but it doesn't feel like it takes long at all.
Yeah, and for the most part, and I mentioned this while we played, for the most part, when it you can plan ahead a little bit, and 90% of the time when it comes to you, your plan will still be actionable, but it's that 10% of the time where the person in front of you or two people in front of you do that one action that kind of throws everything off, then you have to just completely restart. And so I think everybody has those points where it comes to their turn and they're like, oh crap, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And you sit there and kind of just stare at the board for 5 minutes, trying to put your thoughts back in order. So I think everybody has those points. But then on the flip side, I had points, in every time I played it where it comes to my turn and bam, bam, nobody messed up what I was going to do and I had it ready to go. So
Like when I finally got to play Derby.
yeah, there you go. After the third try.
Keep trying.
Yeah.
I find it that I'm surprised as to how high they rate the complexity of this game. So I'm sitting on the BGG, and Rob, you mentioned the ratings on this thing. This thing's overall number 3 on BGG.
Is it number 3? Okay.
Ranked 3.
Wow.
Also overall number 3 on the strategy games.
Yeah.
So it is. I mean, this is like top notch. But it's weighted at 3.91, which is in that heavy medium range. And I remember when that first night I played it, I posted on BGG asking, why are folks feeling this is so heavy? Like, I don't feel the heaviness of this game, and maybe it's because it's parsed out in the way that it's parsed out with 2 actions at a time, with only 8 rounds per era and 2 eras. All those decisions I make are spread out over a good period of time.
Think about how many resources you have in this game. You have the cards, which are a random element that can really limit what you do. Of course, if you get a rough hand, you can always trade them in for the wild cards.
Right.
Then you're balancing coal, iron, all of your different buildings and which building track you're going to do. There's six different building tracks, and you're limited by all of these different things. And then you get into the trading to be able to get to flip the tiles and sell stuff off. There are a lot of components to it, but it does, like, taken individually or just broken down, it doesn't seem that heavy, but there's a lot to it.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's because I feel like I know I can't do it all, right? And in my approach, when I have a situation where everything's a priority, means nothing's a priority, I have to really parse down what is my focus. And I pick one track and I play in that one track. And if at that moment of the situation for my turn, that track is not an option, then I know I have like a backup. So I'm really like, never feel like it was too heavy. I think people are scaring people is what I'm trying to say here. Don't be scared to try this game, because it's not that
so
heavy.
much fun.
It's not. You just take it one turn at a time and you'll love it.
One action that I feel like I hindsight is 2020, is definitely using the wild card action. Maybe take it early on, and you can't take it past like if you're into the second to last turn of the round.
I think Michael got trapped on that one.
Yeah, and you can't use it after
because you got to discard 3 cards.
Yeah, you got, and then you technically only discard 1 because you get those 2 wild cards. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely something. And I didn't use it at all, and I should have.
I think Michael used it the most out of all of us.
I used it once. I used it on the second turn of the game. That was it.
Did you guys use it?
No,
I don't think so.
And taking that allowed me to build into the
triple sale.
Wow, Birmingham. Because I didn't draw any Birmingham cards early in the game.
where I had stacks of Birmingham cards, so I was able to surround myself around Birmingham.
The second round, I discarded a Birmingham card to build a rail because I had 3 of them. As far as complexity goes, like there's a lot of games that it does feel like people they're just overrated on their complexity than they actually are. Especially if you have a good gaming group, like you can take many of these super complex games and just break them down. As we were going through, like we brought up 5 or 6 other board games that have different components or feels
Similar,
or themes to this one.
That's such a great point.
There are some rules intricacies. There's some things, and as we explained the rules tonight, I mean, it took us probably 30 to 45 minutes to kind of go through the rules before we started playing. So again, I think it's definitely, as you stated, not a game that people should shy away from playing. It's definitely worth the time to learn the rules. And once you know the rules, then they make sense. But there is a lot of, when you're explaining, as we said when we started, there's a lot of you do it this way, except in this case, and you can take from here, except when that. And so there's a lot of little exceptions that you've got to learn to get through it. But again, evidenced by the fact of how high it's rated on the BGG ratings and the written reviews and things I've seen of it, and the online reviews I've seen of it. I mean, it's absolutely worth the time to spend. You know, if it's going to take you an hour watching a couple videos to learn it, or going through the rule book, and it's definitely worth the time to learn it.
All right, folks. Well, you've heard it here. Beans and Dice Podcast, we recommend Brass Birmingham by Martin Wallace.
You're listening to the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about how we game.
All right, folks. At this point, we're going to get into the closing segment. We'll just talk a little bit about what we've been up to gaming-wise, geeky goodness. It can be anything such as new acquisitions to games or miniatures work that you've done, like hobby time, or even just games that you've played and you want to share about. I'll lead us off. I've been playing a lot of the Great Heartland Trucking Company.
Good game.
Right. So it's an old Kickstarter from like 2012.
Okay.
It's an older one, but it's such a small box. It's up on the shelf right there.
Is that the one when we came over to play Terraforming Mars? Is that the one that you guys were playing when I walked in?
I believe
it had,
so.
Like all the little cards and it's like pick up and deliver and stuff.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It's a pick up and deliver game. So you're playing the role of a truck driver, and you've got cards that you lay out on the table as your map, and you've got goods that you've got to go pick up, such as cows, pigs, soybeans, corn. And you're going to have to spend fuel cards to move your truck on the different routes, and then you have to collect sets to be able to spend those sets of bill of ladings to be able to pick up those cubes of goods. Then spend more fuel cards to get them to a place that wants to buy them for the best price, but you can block each other because you can't all share the same spaces. So I played that at Miller's, which is a restaurant here in Tampa, right near Armada, and played it with Rob and get a lot of games of that in.
Yep.
It was a great find to be able to get that one finally in. It's something I've always wanted to pick up. And I played Red Alert with William. We recorded a video on that one, but then I accidentally hit delete. So he'll be back on Friday.
Nice.
He'll be back on Friday. We're going to play again. It's a Command and Colors game. So it's Richard Borg, left, right, center. Right, you're playing cards to activate units in different sectors, but it's all set in space. So you're using space fleets, fighters, destroyers, battleships.
What's it called?
Red Alert.
Red Alert?
Oh, man, it's so much fun.
yeah.
And
that sounds really cool.
well, you're also drawing cards not only for the areas that you get to activate, the left, right, and the center for the command cards, but you also have a separate deck of combat cards that do special things. Like there's one that triples effectively, and like it takes away all the resources on your side and down to like 2 stars. So it's a fun space game. So my hope is we'll get that recorded this Friday and get that back to you guys.
Nice.
That's what I've been gaming at.
Well, I was just taking a look here at my list, and I guess it was about a week ago I went over and hung out with Dan over at Your Turn, a board game cafe in Wesley Chapel. And we decided when I showed up that I was going to teach him a game and he was going to teach me a game. So the game I taught him was, I still believe, one of the most underrated games that I've played in a long time, was Tyrants in the Underdark, a great deck building, area control, dudes on a board game. And so I taught him that. It was the first time he played, and he really liked it. As I've introduced that game probably to 10 different people now, and everybody I've introduced it to has either ran out and bought a copy or has really liked the game and has wanted to play again. So
Was that with or without the expansion?
we played just the 2 most basic decks. He has the expansion, and but he's interested in exploring those. I've only played, I think, 3 of the base game comes with 4 decks that you choose 2 and you mix them together. And then there's an expansion that has 2 more decks. So I own that, but I haven't explored any of those either. So I've only played 3 of the 6. But Dan and I mentioned he wanted to play it with 4 players. So we're going to get a game with 4. We just played it 2-player, but he wants to see how it plays at 4 and how it expands. So we're
It's
definitely
wild.
definitely planning to do that. Yeah, I've played it a bunch of times. I usually play it at 4.
That board looks big when you start playing it.
Yep, it gets tight quick.
Oh no.
And
That's a great choice of a game.
yeah, and it scales. When you play 2-player, you just play the middle section. If you play 3, you choose one of the sides, and it's the middle and one of the sides. But as you said, I think it's even tighter with more players, even though the board gets bigger. Yeah, when you start getting into that, everybody's attacking everybody. It's really cutthroat at 4 players, but still, I think definitely one of my probably top 10 games of all time, and it just doesn't get the buzz that I think it should.
Well,
so
it came out right about the same time as Clank did.
okay,
And
that could be. Yeah.
Clank
Nah.
is also another very good Deck
Clank is
Builder
good.
Plus game.
Yeah,
So I think it just kind of slipped into the shadow with it.
Clank,
that could be it.
Tyrants. I mean, Clank down here, Tyrants well above it in my
I like
opinion.
Tyrants better.
Right,
I
but-
haven't played Tyrants,
Yeah.
and I've played Clank. Clank is good.
Yeah.
I don't care for the artwork, and I don't care
Mm.
for just the theme.
Well, see, that's where Tyrants of the Underdark is D&D.
Yeah,
It's all Drow.
yeah.
You're playing the role of Drow, sending assassins to kill the other clans and get the most power. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Anybody familiar with any of the Driftwood storylines is going to know all of the places that are sitting on the board.
Yeah.
But as far as like from a marketing standpoint or from an exposure standpoint, Clank is in all honesty much more approachable
Yeah.
than Tyrants is.
Sure.
But also, I believe had a much bigger push from the publisher than Tyrants got.
Yeah.
So-
And I think Tyrants is definitely, I think, a little more complicated. It's a little bit more of a gamer's game. And that may be why I like it. Not that I don't like lighter games, but I think it has a little extra level of complexity to it that I enjoy. And then on the other half of that, I mentioned the Dan taught me a game. Actually, it was a first-time play for both of us, but we learned the rules pretty quick, and he had read through the rules, I think, before we played. But a brand new game called Paris. Very pretty game. It's got the little 3D model of L'Arc de Triomphe in the middle, and then all the roads coming
God
out
bless
from
you.
it. No, thank you. So, but really cool little game. It's got a bunch of different elements in it, parts of other games that you can see, kind of similar to what we played tonight, I guess, with Brass. But a fun game. I'm interested in playing it again. We played it again just at 2-player. I think it plays 2 to 4. But you're basically you're buying shops on these different roads, these different little areas in Paris, and you're trying to get victory points by building landmarks. You have to buy up all the shops on a street, and then you can build landmarks on top of it. And it's kind of a point salad. You get points in a bunch of different ways.
You have to buy a bunch of shops that you can clear them down to put landmarks in them.
Pretty much, yeah. I say you build on top. I guess it's just physically in the game that everything's in a line, and you kind of build them off on top of the board. But so it's not physically over top of them. But
is it all in just one line, or is it kind of like, because I've been to the Arc de Triomphe, and it's like a spoke wheel, and
That's how the game is
That's
set
where the
up.
game
Okay,
is.
all
Yeah.
right.
Like
yeah,
picture
yeah.
like a 3D model of that,
Yep.
and then all the cards and everything are laid out in a spoke.
Yeah,
It's pretty impressive looking.
Goes out in streets. Yeah, it's really nice. It's got really bright colors in it, so it's really attractive when it's set up. It's really one that people will see and come over and be like, "Ooh, that looks cool.
Yeah.
What's that?" And it's fairly light. I'd say, in complexity, it's probably one step beyond an intro type game. It's probably that next level game, but not overly complicated. But I'm interested in trying it again to see how that goes. And then the last thing I was going to mention is with my 2 kids, the 17-year-old and the 15-year-old. I just introduced them last weekend to Seventh Continent. So that's one that we're playing through our first curse on Seventh Continent, and we played about an hour and a half and got most of the way through the first curse. And we're going to lose. It's kind of inevitable. We're running out of cards, and anybody who's ever played the cards are kind of a timer. They're your health or whatever. You have to try to beat the
It's a
curse.
cooperative exploring game where you're very narrative.
Right. Yeah.
Every card has like a story to it. There's hundreds and hundreds of cards lined up in like Magic the Gathering boxes.
Yeah.
Effectively, and then when you pull a card, it'll say, it's like a choose your own adventure. It'll say, go to this card. If you want to do this, go to this card. So
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, they point you in different directions. So each card has some different decisions you can make. You can explore different things, but everything you do, you're having to burn cards without getting into too much detail. You're pulling more cards out of a deck, and that deck is your timer for the game. So you have to. At the beginning, you're just kind of dropped on an island, and you have no idea what you're doing. You just know that your group was cursed, and you're trying to beat the curse. You're trying to figure out what the curse is and overcome the curse. And so I think the base game came with, I think it was 3 curses, and each one's 3 or 4 hours. But it's a game where you're probably going to lose the first time you play, and then you kind of learn some stuff from your loss. And then when you play again, there's some random things that change from playthrough to playthrough. But overall, as you play it multiple times, you start learning what you need to do to beat that that curse and where you need to go, where you need to spend time. There are red herrings all over the place. There's cool little things that you might want to go explore, and then it ends up being something that really doesn't help you, and it just kind of wasted time with you going through that deck. So,
Which is the trap.
Right,
Those are
exactly.
the decisions to make.
Yeah.
Don't fall for the trap.
and my son didn't think he was going to like it at all, and when I was explaining it, he just zoned out. And then when we got about half hour into it, he's like, "Oh, okay, well, this is cool. This is a lot different than I thought it was going to be." So,
And that's pretty deep coming from a teenager.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'm happy that they seem to be liking it so far. So we'll see how that ends up. But that's what I've been playing.
Anything from the couch on goodness?
I have not played a game since last time I was over here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't even looked at the Blood Bowl rule book yet, so a little bit of a slack.
Oh
on that.
man, I've been waiting for you to get through that.
Tomorrow I'm going to be opening it up. The last couple of days have been a little bit wild. So
I know Michael and I
gonna
are
get into
planning on getting a game of Blood Bowl. In the second edition Blood Bowl just is coming out, and Michael got a copy of the review. We just posted a video of us unboxing.
Yep. Releases on the 27th, and our allocations got lifted, which means we were not restricted to 2 copies of the team or 1 tree man. So we will be getting in more stuff and taking pre-orders through this weekend, and it will be in on Friday of next week.
And half
along
my
with
paycheck.
Twilight Imperium 4. Or Twilight Imperium 4 expansion.
Yeah.
Half my paycheck.
Yeah.
Are you saying you have a Games Workshop addiction?
No, just board games in general. I mean, there's
It's-
a wall behind us.
What? Nonsense time.
A lot of this was transplanted like straight from Armada right to here.
Some of them delivered.
Direct to consumer.
Yeah. One of the first hand delivery customers here. Hey, how about you, Pat? What you been up to?
So besides playing at home, normal just Ticket to Ride. Gosh, what else? Tiny Towns. Love Tiny Towns.
I still haven't played it.
Yeah, I
Oh
need to
my
play that.
gosh!
You haven't played
Okay,
Tiny
I'll bring it.
Towns?
No.
Do you have it or no?
No,
No.
I'll bring it over next time.
It just won an Origins Award, didn't it?
I can
did?
also bring
Yeah.
a copy over.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, but either one. That would be another fantastic game.
All right, so
Like,
describe it.
Yeah.
The game takes 45 minutes. It's played on a 4x4 board, and each turn the active player chooses one of 5 different resources. Everybody gets one of those resources and puts it on their board. And you're trying to put them down into Tetris shapes to turn them into buildings. But once they're on your board, they're on your board.
Yeah.
So if you can't turn a piece into a building, then that piece sits there blocking that space for the entire time. And basically you go until you can't place anything else onto your board. And the game is actually a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Is it a shared board or my board?
No,
your own board.
It's your own board, and you put them in the order that you need to. And that's the other thing. You can probably, like, if you're not paying attention, you can trick yourself out and like put the blocks in the wrong order. But it's definitely one of my favorite games. Especially just I love that little city building aspect, and then you get what a certain building called a monument, and those
Unique to each
monuments.
player.
Yeah, so unique to each player, and those monuments can kind of like guide on how you're going to build your city
Or
and
break the
everything.
rules completely.
A funny thing, it just came out with an expansion too. Was that added animals, and one thing when I got it at the beginning of this whole pandemic thing, right? And my daughter, she asked me, "Hey, where are the little animals that are on the front of the cover?" And I'm like, that's a good question, because like there's anthropomorphic animals on the front, and there's none of that. And then finally, that most recent expansion added those animals. I watched, I think it was the Dice Tower review on it that like talked about the animal mechanic. I'm not too crazy about it, but and there's the other expansion that's Fortune that adds money to the game, and that one is something I would want to pick up.
That one is a lot more forgiving
Yeah,
because it does allow you to do things with those pieces that you can't use.
yeah,
But yeah, the game takes 45 minutes at most, seats up to 6. I actually like it at much higher player counts. Tried playing it at 2 players. It feels too much like chess at 2 players.
Right.
Strike that, reverse it. It feels too much like checkers.
Hmm.
There's a little bit of interaction,
yeah.
but you can't really, like, there's not enough, or there's too many actions taken to set anybody off of a plan. When you have 6 players, though, if you mess up 3 times around the table, you're out of the game. It's real hard to do it, but like you just have to pay attention to what's going on, and really can be a lot more interactive at those 5 and 6 player points, which is honestly where I've played it more. But the 2 players I just completely did not like.
Yeah, right here it says best board game of the year 2020. Tiny Towns by Alderac Entertainment Group, AEG. So yeah, it won Best Board Game of 2020.
I believe
Yeah.
it was up for a Spiel
where?
Award. Yeah, I don't think
Origins?
it won, but
And then
yeah. Did it win Origins?
It's an Origins Award
Okay.
winner.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's the
That's
designer's
big.
first board game too. And what else do we play a lot of King Domino, Queen Domino around the house.
That's a good one.
Yeah, no, those are our
Your
favorites.
daughter, I think your daughter's like 10. You said.
She's 10. She's
Yeah.
10, and my
About
wife
their
joins in seldomly. But one of the funniest things is that it's happened recently. Last Thursday, I actually tried running a one-on-one D&D session with Lily, and because she was like, "Hey, I want to play D&D again," you know, because we play online throughout the pandemic with my brother and his wife and everything, and we were having fun doing that. She's like, "Oh, I want to do it again. You know, it's fun. It's my imagination." I am not a good dungeon master.
You discovered that? Yeah.
I am
No
not a
one-
good storyteller.
No one
at
is
all.
to start.
Well, it takes practice.
Which setup did you use? I know I picked up behind me. You can see it, the essentials setup
Yeah.
because I want to teach my kids who's 13, 9 and 13. So I want to run them through it, and the essentials seems like a good setup. Which one did you use?
I was looking for the essentials kit, unfortunately, and
Well, we can't get that.
yes, I know, and I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming. I blame Wizards of the Coast. Anyways, what?
Hasbro.
So I was trying to get that, just trying to set up because I figured that would be the best way to do it. But I couldn't do that, so I found on a website called DM's Guild, found a $3 storyline just to try and follow that. I realized I probably should have done a little bit more setup, probably a little
Oh,
bit
a
more
lot of prep.
preparation. You know,
Reading the modules beforehand is a good idea.
yeah. I mean, and I tried doing that, but I was also busy at work, and I just couldn't do that.
Wait a
Like,
minute. You
know.
mean you have a life outside of board game?
Yeah, I know, right?
You gotta
Yeah,
work?
It's funny, you know, wife,
I have-
children, a home to take care of, right?
I have a life inside of board gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
I'm not
life
gonna lie,
at all.
like I know you say your job's very hard, but I am jealous of you.
We could say that for a whole
another
podcast topic.
conversation.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
What the life of a
his
shop owner's
job
like.
really that tradable?
Take 6 hours of looking at a computer screen. Oh wait, you know
That's all I do.
That's all we
I
do.
do. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yep, we can make that a whole,
Yeah,
a whole topic.
right.
Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. You know, D&D. I'm gonna try to get my kid into it too. So maybe we can
Yeah,
hook up
so-
on the essentials thing.
yeah.
I'm gonna start by building a character.
Is your daughter a fan of Harry Potter?
Actually, she's almost done with the second book right now. She loves Harry Potter, and yeah,
Kids on Brooms.
Kids on Brooms.
I think I picked up a free copy on RPG Day from your shop on Kids on
Really?
Broom. Yeah.
Okay, I'll have to look at that.
I'll show it to you next time. Stop by.
Okay.
And I think Kids on Bikes is supposed to be like Strange Realms.
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things. Yeah.
Yes.
It's supposed to be like Stranger Things.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, folks, on that note, that brings us to the close of our podcast. We want to thank you for sticking around and listening to us banter a little bit about what we've been up to, our opinions on our last recent play of Brass. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more content. We're going to play more games, talk about what we played and what we like, what we didn't like, and just kind of share our opinions on it. So stick around, subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one, folks. I'm Carlos,
I'm Rob.
Michael.
Patrick.
and we're the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about
How we
game.
game.
Thanks for watching. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.